Okay, so welcome to section 3, the nonviolent crisis intervention section. So I am actually interested to find out from you guys how many people have taken nonviolent crisis intervention before. So I'm just actually going to launch the poll and get a sense of that. And you can just enter in yes or no, just so that we kind of have a sense. I know a lot of people in the human service sector have to take it, or depending what your role is, and other people haven't or aren't familiar with it. All right. So I'm seeing there's some people who are facilitators for it, and lots of you have taken it. Wow. So yeah, quite a diverse group. So the one group I was with, they hadn't like almost nobody had taken it, and then other people have. Okay. So this is just going to be a quick just everybody here says they've taken it, so this is just going to be a quick kind of refresher. It might be a little bit different than what you've taken for the training because it's just a short snippet of just kind of the reminder of the processes that we can take to help de-escalate issues that can relate back to not just issues that we're facing with our clients and with patients or whoever, but even with employees who are feeling a lot of stress or are aggravated, and how we can support them as well. So what is violence? So the violence, for the definition, as you probably all know, according to the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety, really quite varies. It's a lot of people think maybe it's only related to physical abuse, but of course it does include things like rumors and swearing and verbal abuse and pranks, arguments, and then obviously all of the other physical things that we also can see. So I just did want to give you a couple of minutes to do a quick brainstorm session of like listing out just a few of the warning signs for violence. And I mean, some of these may look like they're warning signs, right? Like the rumors and swearing and abuse, but in fact, they are actually a certain type of violence, but they can start small and get worse. So I'll just give you guys a few minutes just to have a quick breakout session and just to discuss some of the warning signs, and then I'll go through a few of them here with you. All right, so I think everybody's back. So if you can do a little bit of that brain dump back into the chat function related to some of the warning signs that we see, then that would be great. And then I'll just share with you some of the signs, well, a lot of them. There's a lot of different potential ones, as you guys would know. And we can go on to talking about how we can then look at addressing and preventing further escalation. All right, so I see some examples of seeing staff becoming withdrawn and self-isolating, for sure. That's a great example. People being emotionally fragile, seeing increased sick time, seeing some clicks happening. That was repeated again by someone else, seeing some of these cliques forming, people just being a little bit more colder towards each other. Yeah, for sure. There's so many. So let me just share with you some of the ones here, which is a pretty long list here, right? So these are some of these are the more obvious ones. But the most important thing to remember in any case is any kind of behavior that's a little bit unusual or not quite the norm. Whenever we see somebody, like you said, starting to withdraw or be a little bit more emotionally fragile, or people taking a little bit more sick time, all of these different things, right? So here's quite the long list. I don't need to read it all through, but right, the excessive absenteeism or lateness, pushing the limits on all kinds of things, right? Disregarding health and safety of others, disrespect for authority is an issue for sure, right? A refusal to acknowledge job performance problems, just having inappropriate statements, misinterpretation of communications, talking about the problems all the time, but without looking at ways to resolve them, but just complaining, right? There's so many, right? Any kind of a sudden and unpredictable change in energy levels, suddenly agitated and like, you know, and or suddenly having no energy and motivation. There's a lot of different warning signs to take into account, but the most important thing to remember with all of these is to look for any kind of change in behavior. And sometimes these warning signs can last for a long time, and so you still want to look at addressing them. But the most important thing, obviously, again here to remember, is that early intervention when we start to see these warning signs is key. Just like with anything, if somebody is starting to feel like they have they're experiencing any types of signs and symptoms, any kind of mental health disorder as well, or you know, whatever it is, anything that's kind of abnormal and somebody's needing support, we need to have early intervention. And the other thing to always obviously really keep in mind is that when we're seeing these warning signs, that people need help and they need compassion, and they need to be treated like human beings with respect and civility to help support them. So even though their behavior is a little bit unorthodox and they're acting out in ways that are disruptive and hurting the culture, that we need to, you know, treat them in a supporting way to get them the support that they need, so that it doesn't escalate, obviously, and just really to help them, because we know that there's a problem, there's something going on, they're not just becoming that way for no particular reason. So I'm going to share with you a de-escalation video, and it's in a psychiatric hospital setting. And so this isn't going to be relevant for all of you, but the processes that they go through with this de-escalation are the same that you would probably go through with somebody in an acute situation where somebody is seeming to be aggravated in some way. That doesn't mean that they're physically violent, but if they're just agitated, aggravated, and how you can support them through the range of, you know, the potential circumstances. So I'm going to share this video with you guys. It's not too long, it's about 10 minutes. And then we're just going to go through those processes and the steps that they follow, along with a couple of other additional tidbits. And then hopefully we can have a nice little refresher of just some different ways to approach some, you know, violence and how to kind of de-escalate issues that we're seeing.
What the hell is this place?
Mr. Smith? Oh, Mr. Smith. Hi, I'm Dr. Zeller. I'm one of the psychiatrists
Who are
here.
you? I don't
Can
need
I
to
help
talk
you?
to you. I need to leave. I don't know what this place is. I was taken from my
that
home.
door's locked. You can't get out. What can I do to help you?
You can get me out of this damn place.
Well, let's talk about getting you out of here. Until you can turn around and talk with me, I can't help you.
Who are you?
I'm a psychiatrist here. My name's Dr. Zeller, and I'm here to help, not to hurt. What's going on? Tell me what's happening, how I can help you. We've estimated that somewhere between 20 and 25% of the folks that we see in our psychiatric ER will experience an episode of agitation during their visit with us. So it's something that we take very seriously, and we want to intervene as promptly as possible to prevent bad outcomes. And when we think about agitation, we think of it as a spectrum where it can be a little less severe at one end, where maybe somebody's irritable and restless, to up to the very far end where somebody would be combative and violent. And we definitely don't want to get to that end, so we'd like to intervene at the near end. What's going on? Tell me what's happening, how I can help you.
I don't know who you are. The police took my wallet, all my ID. I need to get the hell out of here. I'm really scared. I don't need to be here, okay?
It sounds like you're going through a real
So I
tough
need to
time.
leave. Yeah. Yeah, I am.
When you go through a tough time like this, what helps you to relax?
Being at home. I'm not at home right now, am I?
So that can't really happen quite yet.
That's right.
But maybe if we talk a little bit about what's happening, we can make things better.
No, I want to talk to my brother. Where's the phone? Because I need to call the police. I'm going to need to call the police. I'm going to call 911 and get the hell out of here.
When somebody's going through an agitation episode, they're not a bad person, even though it may come across that way to some people, like they're hostile or sarcastic or saying mean things to somebody. But what's really happening is that somebody is having a very, very difficult psychiatric crisis, and they really do want help. They're just really not expressing it in such a way that that the average person would go, oh, this is somebody who needs our help. The best way to work with somebody who is agitated is not to be agitated back to them, but in the heat of the moment. If somebody's saying, I don't understand why I'm here, you don't say back to them, just sit down, don't worry about it, we'll let you know, because that's just going to make them more frightened and can lead to more agitation. One of the most important things not to say is sit down and shut up. And it's so frequently something that people are going to say some version of that.
I'm going to call 911 and get the hell out of here.
We can talk about getting you
It
out.
says you're a doctor.
We can get
So
you out
let's
of
go.
here.
Yeah.
It's a
I'm
safe
ready.
place, though, but it's going to take a few minutes. We need to talk about why you're here.
I don't know what this place is.
This is a safe place. It's a psychiatric facility. And
Why am
we
I in a
see people in
psychiatric
all
hospital?
kinds of different distress or not feeling that well. And I understand you don't think that's going on with you.
I'm seeing all these people here, and they're scaring me. And there's a guy over there. Look at all the staff. They're talking to that guy. What are they going to do to him?
A good de-escalation involves empathetic listening, intervening in a calm way, make sure people feel that this is a safe environment, that we're here to help and not to hurt. You aren't crowding them, you're not glaring at them, but you're looking like you're receptive and helpful. Smith? Oh, Mr. Smith. There's a certain way that we'd like to approach. Arms are going to be at your side. Your hands are typically outwards. You're relaxed. Your knees are maybe bent just a little bit so you look at ease. You're there safe and open and welcoming. I had a little bit over 2 arm lengths of space between me and our patient. He had what we call a line of egress, a way that he could escape, which we didn't want him to follow, but he could see it and that would help him to relax nonetheless.
No,
How do
I'm
we-
seeing all these people here, and they're scaring me.
Sometimes when people are agitated, their thoughts are kind of racing in their head. They're not hearing things the first time so clearly. We use these short phrases and repeat them until they really start to sink in. Everybody here is in a different situation, but this is a safe place. We're here to help. We don't hurt people, we help people.
Then why did the police come?
I think out of all the things, what I really like to ask people is what can we do to help you? What do you need right now? Tell us what would make things better. Many times I've talked to individuals who've just undergone a psychiatric agitation crisis, and they'll say, nobody would listen to me. Everything would have been so much better if somebody just would have listened. Let's talk about you. What can we do right now to help you feel better?
I'm in a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah.
My brother put me in a psychiatric hospital.
It's a safe place.
It's a safe place.
It is a safe place, and we're here to help.
Uh-huh.
So would you like something to eat, maybe something to drink? Would that help? Maybe
know
going
you.
somewhere where we're a little bit away from all this, the rest of the crowd, we can sit down and talk, and you can have something to eat. Probably the most important thing is helping people to calm down and regain control on their own with a little bit of help from us. One of the ways you regain control is if you feel you have your own ability to make decisions, and so offering people choices gives them the chance to choose and gives them a little bit more of a say in what's going on around them, and that in and of itself can help people to relax. Maybe they want to go to a room and lie down, maybe with the lights dimmed a bit. Sometimes people want to listen to music. Maybe just getting away from a stressful situation somewhere in the emergency room, getting them to a different part of the emergency room can be enough. Maybe
know
going
you.
somewhere where we're a little bit away from all this, the rest of the crowd, we can sit down and talk, and you can have something to eat.
I am hungry. I haven't eaten for 12 hours because the stupid cops, they kept me against my will. And that's illegal. I've never been to a place like this. Look
If you've
at
never
these.
been somewhere like this before, it can look a little strange and unusual.
Look at those people
But
over
like I
there.
said, it's safe, and this is a place where we help people, and we want to help you. How about we get you something to eat? You and I can go and sit and talk while you have something to eat. Would that help?
I'd really rather just do what you need to do to get me out of here.
We
Okay?
can talk all about how we can get you out of here, but first, we need to sit down and have a chat. Get you a little something to eat, sit down, and we can talk.
This place. Okay. Well,
Okay? Come
let
with me, we'll go
call
get
my
something
brother.
to eat, and we'll go sit down.
All right. Just stay close. Okay? Don't be close to me.
They say it would be faster just to put somebody in restraints and give them a shot. But if you think about it, when we talk about verbal de-escalation, we're usually saying just a few minutes, maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes. That should be all you really need. And when you're only talking about 5 minutes and helping somebody compassionately to get better and to relax and calm down, that much easier to do restraining and giving medications actually doesn't isn't faster at all. It's going to take a few minutes. We need to talk about why you're here. If you're going to put somebody in restraints, first you have to get a big group of people together, make a move on an individual, take them down. A nurse is going and getting medications and then coming back and needs staff again so that they can hold somebody down to give them the injection. It's 20 or 30 minutes that you're doing because that was quicker than the 5 minutes of de-escalation. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you look at it that way. The other thing about it is that we found out that the vast majority of assaults from patients to staff occur during that tackling an agitated person to take them down and put them into restraints. It's really a win-win to try to do de-escalation and intervene in this compassionate, collaborative way as opposed to the old-fashioned restrain and sedate. What's been really, really amazing is that when one hospital is getting really good and they start having these great outcomes and the word gets around and then other hospitals want to pick up on it. And pretty soon all the hospitals in a district or a region are doing it. And everywhere we keep hearing about it, we keep hearing the same great things where staff are getting really proud of what they're doing and they really feel like they're being healthcare providers rather than jailers, if you will. Having a different way to do things has been, I think, so exciting. And when you do see that sea change in staff, they get excited and they want to tell everybody else about it, and the word continues to spread.
All right. So I know you guys aren't all in obviously the same type of setting where we need to be focusing in on this nonviolent crisis intervention where we're dealing with patients, but some of you are. But either way, the steps that he uses are still really relevant and useful for supporting people within your organization. So even if it's not, whether it's your clients that you're dealing with or whether it's dealing with colleagues. And so like the theme around everything is around empathy and empathetic listening. So when somebody's showing and demonstrating, signs and warning signs, and you're seeing some of these things, like people are starting to withdraw, right? Or people are extra emotionally fragile, or you're seeing these clicks or different things that are happening. We really want to focus in on, as much as possible, being empathetic. And so being empathetic means putting yourself in their shoes and understanding that the way that they feel is probably how you would feel if you had lived their life and were living in their shoes and were dealing with the same things that they were dealing with. And the seeing any warning signs or seeing any types of violence is really it's an indicator that there's something else going on, whether it be in their work life or whether it be in their personal life. And so the listening piece is probably one of the most important pieces to helping to support people to get to be heard, and to give them some power to be able to make some choices to help improve their situation as well. Because oftentimes, if you're in an emotional state, just offering advice right away off the get-go, or trying to fix the problem, or just trying to tell them what to do, is probably not going to be too well received, right? So the listening piece is probably the most important piece as possible. And then of course he talks about intervening as calmly as possible as well. So this is more like when there's a real risk of more of the physical piece, or there's a lot of agitation in the moment. And so trying to be and look as calm as possible as you can, because there's a little bit of that neuron mirroring happening where, if you're looking agitated, then they're going to feel more agitated. And then it turns into kind of a bit of a cycle. So again, helping people feel safe. So again, psychologically safe as well as physically safe, that you're an open, trustworthy person that they can talk to, and that you're not going to judge them, and that you're going to be there really to support them. Right. And then again, if there's some kind of agitation going on, then of course you still want to give them that space no matter what, even if it's some, heightened agitation or just they're in distress, so that they can, feel that they're not being restricted in any way, and then obviously that they can escape if they need to, and there's that clear line, that kind of thing. And just being receptive and respectful, and helpful as possible. So the calm piece, it goes back to how we demonstrate our, relates back to things like our body language and our voice, our intonation in our voice, and all of these different types of things, which I'm actually just going to go into here in a little bit, which can help support each other, or help to support the person. So another thing too is that, so if somebody seems that they are really distressed, or maybe they are really emotional, and then you're in a group and there's other people, or like you have a cubicle type arrangement and there's other people that can hear, that type of thing, it's important to make sure that you can support them and be real with them in a space where that's private, right? And then again, if they're super agitated, you just want to make sure that it's safe, but just making sure that what they're being said is what's being said is private, and that you really are there to support them, and that you're not going to share the information too. That helps to build trust, right? With other people, unless obviously there's a risk of harm to themselves or others. In terms of supporting the body language, and to not look like so even if you aren't feeling calm because maybe that person's feeling really agitated, you want to give them the space, like I said before, but just trying to keep that open body language as much as possible. So, not crossing your arms, kind of keeping your arms by your side, having them sit, and sitting with them can be really helpful. And, obviously not raising your voice or anything like that, but just trying to be as open and comforting to them as possible can really be helpful. One of the other things to remember is obviously if somebody's really feeling agitated, what happens when we're anxious is that our prefrontal cortex sometimes starts to shut down and we get in this flight or fight mode, and our hindbrain takes over. And so we're not necessarily thinking as clearly, and it happens to everyone. It doesn't mean they're less intelligent, just maybe in that moment they are, right? Until they can be at peace and they start to feel heard, and that can take a while for that to happen. So if the person, that you're talking with is like really agitated, then it's really important to just keep things as simple as possible. Less is more listening. And that was something that somebody was recommending, I think, right at the very beginning, was just to, listening is so important. Listening more than giving. Listening to hear versus listening to respond. Right? And that can be so helpful, because that can help the person actually work through the issue on their own, and get through it and sometimes solve and see clarity in what it is that they're saying. So again, just trying to keep things simple and help them make their own, give them a couple of choices if you need to in the moment, if there's something's really stressful in the moment, but giving them their own choice in the long run too, right? If something's really happening where, there are cliques and there's all kinds of things that are happening at work that's impacting the culture and impacting other people, and impacting obviously their ability to do the job because they're not there, all of these things, giving them a couple of options so that they feel that they have some power over things, and some responsibility over things as well. So then the other thing too is to really try to use reflective questioning as much as possible in your listening. So again, that's all about listening, so to allow the person to be heard versus then to respond. So let them talk it out as much as possible, and help them and try to clarify, paraphrase, that type of thing, and ask some reflective questioning, which is related to the paraphrasing, but just using it in a question form, to help give them maybe some insight too. And it sometimes is helpful for them to hear what they're saying back, just to make sense of it all, especially when they are feeling in an anxious, agitated state. In terms of, and so what can also help too, as if the person isn't too adaptive or willing to or wanting to listen to your choices yet as well, sometimes just silence is helpful if you're in that moment of agitation and you really want to support them. So just allow them to continue to hopefully speak and restate, and you can You could nod your head, that kind of thing, and try to identify the source, but saying less, right? Less is more in the upfront until there is a space of calm where you can help to address the issues that are at hand. So again, with the paraverbals, which is mostly just relating to your vocal inflection, and try to keep a little bit more monotone with your words, so that you're not sending a double message, because you might be thinking, feeling frustrated, and that can come through in your vocal tone. And the other thing to remember is that if you're dealing with somebody in the moment, but you're also feeling really frustrated with them, then maybe it is good just to have somebody else chat too, right? It's also important to recognize when you don't feel like you are in the right space and the right headspace to be able to help support them in that moment if they're really agitated. And by all means, find somebody else who maybe that they trust, to have a conversation with them if needed, in the long run. So this is mostly just an overview of what to do when there's an issue of just a kind of acute agitation, and how to deal with that situation and how to de-escalate it. And of course, there's all kinds of different things that we were talking about earlier in terms of how we can support a healthy culture, and looking at policies and things to address things like bullying and harassment. But in the instance, like in the case, the main process here again is empathetic listening. That's one of the most important things: empathetic and non-judgmental listening, trying to intervene calmly as much as possible, feeling as calm yourself. And if you're really not feeling calm and you can't demonstrate a sense of calmness, and maybe having somebody else come in to chat with them. Make sure the person feels safe, both physically and psychologically, because you're not judging them. You're there, you're empathetic, and you're there to support them, and then give them that space if they need that. For if there's risk at the physical violence, right? So there's that clear line of exit. And then also just always being as receptive as possible and as helpful as possible. All right, so that's a quick short section, just a bit of an overview of you guys, because you've all taken training, and there may be some slightly different steps that you've taken in depending on where you've taken it. Yeah, so I hope this was as useful just to help understand how to support people who are going through a state of agitation, who are demonstrating warning signs for violence, and how you can better support them.